that was one of the main affirmations he taught me was God is in me, through me, for me, and with me. And where there's God, there's no imperfection. And that's one of the things I would repeat before every single game is God is in me, through me, for me, and with me. Where there's God, there's no imperfection.
Jelani, thanks for coming on, brother.
Thanks for having me.
I think probably to start out, to provide listeners a little context, we literally, I think, met, a couple months back?
Super Bowl week.
Yeah, Super Bowl week at a speaking engagement. And I feel like I only got the chance to hear 2 or 3 minutes, of your story. But what was so interesting to me was kind of your transition out of the league and how you dealt with retirement and kind of the things you do now, I guess, to build mental resiliency in everything that you do.
For sure.
And so I was super intrigued. And so I just wanted to hear kind of, I don't know, at length your story. We'll obviously talk about that in the Postseason app down the road. But I guess to rewind us a little bit, maybe take us back to growing up. You grew up in Maryland. What was life like for you as a teenage kid? And, was sports something that was always, I guess, part of your life, or your parents put you in early?
Yeah. I had an older brother who was 7 years older than me. He played high school football. I used to be underneath the bleachers with the other kids, you know what I'm saying, tackling a little too hard and rough. And, that was kind of where the love came from, is watching my older brother who I looked up to. Growing up, my parents were always super supportive. My father was one of those parents who was really big into mindset. And so we would be watching old Muhammed Ali videos and he would have me upstairs just studying film of Hall of Fame running backs at the time. That was my position of choice, was running back. So I'd be watching the Walter Paytons, the Barry Sanders of the world. And ultimately really just, he would teach me affirmations they can't stop you. Every time you touch the ball, you're supposed to score. And he would have me repeat those over and over and over again. So he was big on mindset, and he was just very supportive. I equate him to you look at how Michael Jordan's father was such a big part of his life, and Tiger Woods' father was such a big part of his life. So I kind of had that upbringing, and ultimately it provided confidence for me. I was super humble, and he was kind of the mouthpiece. I was quiet, I was humble, but he helped me in a lot of ways bring out that confidence on the field. And I was naive enough to believe him when he said that, I couldn't be stopped. And so I would, I was really good at running back. It was more breaking tackles and that's what kind of got me the level of exposure that got me to a good high school that led to, the success down the road.
Why was he so big on mindset? Was, I don't know, anxiety or something he struggled with, and so he learned that was such an important piece of performance?
I think his father is a role model for him. My grandfather, he passed away a couple of years ago, but that was the relationship that they had. Whenever because my father's an architect, he's an entrepreneur, and he's building people's dream houses. And whenever he has tough times, he always called up his father, and his father would be like, "Maurice, do you know that you are the baddest architect in the world?" That's how his father taught to him. So I think it was a bit of that. That's how he was raised. That's how he saw success in a lot of other athletes, including, Muhammad Ali, in terms of the affirmations that he would always say. So I think he just understood very early on the blessing or the power that comes from having the right kind of mindset.
So what would those sessions look like with your dad? Maurice is his name?
Maurice, yeah.
What would those sessions look like at your house where he's like, "Come on, boys, let's go watch some Muhammad Ali clips"?
Oh, man. I mean, we would be up all times of the night. He had no, real idea of time, it seemed like. We would be in his room 2 a.m. just watching old clips, old film. We would go outside late at night. He'd bring out some dumbbells, and we would just do a little session out there. And, he'd kind of just be talking about, I equate our experiences to Lion King, if you've seen it, where Simba and his father, when they went out, was looking at the stars and all of your ancestors, the kings and queens and all up there, and they're watching over you. And I remember when we would be lifting weights outside, we would go for jogs. It'd be nighttime, and he would just always have this this story, or this. He would help us understand that that God, the divine, lives in all things, lives in us as well. That was one of the main affirmations he taught me, was God is in me, through me, for me, and with me. And where there's God, there's no imperfection. And that's one of the things I would repeat before every single game, is God is in me, through me, for me, and with me. And where there's God, there's no imperfection. And so that was kind of the idea behind all of that mental, just motivational content that he would just continue to put in front of us and teach us. It was this idea that we can do all things with God, with Christ, with just that spiritual essence leading us.
That's so funny. You said, I love power statements. Yeah. I had one this past year that was like, I will not be anxious. I will trust in your promises. If God is for me, what can man do to me? And I would literally just tell myself that before games, and it just bred this confidence.
Yeah.
You started believing in your preparation more. It kind of stilled your mind, and you got into, I don't know what I call flow. You know what flow is, like when you're out on the field.
Yeah.
And there's not a worry in the world. You're just kind of like cruising.
Yeah. Yeah. It's powerful. The time just feels like it doesn't exist. And it's more subconscious at that stage. All your preparation, you're just moving with intuition. And it's a beautiful, beautiful feeling. Did
your dad coach you guys at all growing up, or was he just kind of on the side, just doing this in the background?
He didn't coach, but he was the loudest one on the field. So he would be on the sideline, running up and down the sideline. So I'm like, they can't stop you, Jelani. They can't stop you. So I heard him more than I heard my coach.
And your mom, was she all for this type thing?
She was right there with him. Okay.
Yeah.
She's a black belt. So she...
Hold on. A black belt in karate?
Yeah. So that's the kind of energy she carries. She was right there with him.
A black belt in karate.
Yeah.
Did you ever like try her when you were young?
I used to try her for sure. But she was one of my teachers at the karate school I went to. She was one of the instructors because she was a black belt. And so she would teach me. So it was all respect. I ain't try like that, but I would definitely, just mess around a little bit, But you don't want to mess with her. She's a real deal. She's from like Atlantic City. She got kind of that kind of, she used to get in gang fights and all of that. She's a real deal.
She's legit.
Yeah.
Okay, so you dominate youth football, high school football. You're like one of the top recruits coming out. Running back coming out?
I was recruited for a linebacker coming out of high school.
Okay.
And Little League, when my dad was really like forming my mind, and I ended up getting a scholarship to a really good high school. Little League is when I really exploded and showed that I was a good player. That was more running back. Then when I got to high school, I played running back. My highlight tape has a lot of running back on it, but linebacker is really where the colleges started coming in and seeing the full potential of.
So it sounds like your parents were super involved in the early stages. Were they like really involved in your recruiting process and like helping you decide?
Everything. Everything. That recruiting process, it was so helpful having them in my corner, because they were able to help me maintain the good grades. They were able to really funnel in all of that incoming information that I was getting. That's when social media was just starting to kind of pop. Facebook. So I had media, fans, coaches from all over, like just reaching out to me on Facebook. And it was overwhelming for a young kid. This is when social media is just getting started. So they were really good, like filtration systems. There were like set hours where people could reach out to me, and they would answer the phone. They would patch it over to me. We had like strict timing. We couldn't be on the phone for too long. So that was powerful. My dad put together this sort of matrix where it was pretty much a table that had the top 25 schools I was interested in, had different categories in columns of categories that resonated with me in terms of like how many athletes go play pro, how many graduate, One of the categories was, the proximity to a Chipotle, because that was big for me.
Let's go. Shout out to Chipotle.
Shout out to Chipotle and the salad dressing. And essentially we had a matrix where we were able to see very clearly the schools. We were able to rank everything from 1 to 10, and we were able to clearly see the schools that stood out on all the categories that meant a lot to me. That's how I got from, 50 schools to the top 5. And those are the ones I ended up doing the official visits for. They were with me on all my visits, all my unofficial and official visits. We took 30 unofficial visits, something like that, across the country. Only took 2 officials, and that was to Penn State and University of Florida. So they were
Not
there.
Notre Dame. Not Notre Dame.
I took an unofficial to Notre Dame.
Okay. What did you think of Notre Dame campus?
It was
Just as an
beautiful.
aside. Yeah.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. Notre Dame, Charlie Weiss was there when I came and visited. I loved it. I mean, it was in my top 5, but that year I came out, University of Florida won the national
Gators.
championship, so they won my heart.
Was Tim there?
Tim Tebow, yeah. He was there my first year. That was his last year. So they were supposed to win again because most of the team came back. We went undefeated and then lost to Alabama in the SEC championship.
Was that when he gave like that speech? We'll never lose again or something like.
Yeah. 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Of the rest of your life. 20 minutes. Yeah. That was Tebow. I wasn't there in the locker room for that. That was the year they won it in 2008. And then I came 2009. And, we played well. It was incredible just witnessing that championship atmosphere and seeing what it looks like to be the best and learning from those guys, learning from those coaches, Urban Meyers of the world. It was an incredible experience, a really good growth experience for me.
When you say championship culture, I want to take a moment there. What does that mean to you? Like you've played a lot of sports throughout your life. Like what was different, I guess, about that team?
Full buy-in, obviously very, very hard work, accountability, leadership, not just on the coaching level, but leadership within the players. Accountability was huge. I remember, Urban Meyer just had everyone wired. And one of his favorite quotes was, when is a team ready to play? When they know what they're doing and why they're doing it. And so we would live that out. The walkthroughs in the hotel the night before the game, he would call out, special teams, punt team up, and everyone would just start clapping. And he would just go around, Jelani, what is your job description? I got number 2 down the field. I got to turn him around. I got to make him go behind me so that the so-and-so. Good. What's your job description? And you would have to be confident. You would have to know what you were doing. The whole team would have to know that you knew what you were doing. There would have to be that level of group belief for everybody to know that, we're the most prepared, better team on the field. And that was a phenomenal experience to recognize that. And there haven't been many programs that I've played with professionally, especially where I was able to feel that level of accountability that, Urban Meyer was able to put together. I don't know what happened in the NFL when he went, but I guess it's hard to really get that same level of buy-in. Your first year coming in, speaking to grown adults with kids. And
they're making more money than you, and it's like
it's a little tougher, but
that's one thing I miss from college is just the camaraderie and just the. I don't want to say love for the game because there are a lot of guys in the NFL who still love the game of football, but there's something innocent about these college guys that are still grinding to make it. Yeah. And that buy-in you're talking about. Yeah. It's funny you say like in the meetings, like he would just popcorn call you and say, what's your job? Yeah. I remember my rookie year with the Chargers, we had a special teams coordinator by the name of George Stewart. And Coach Stu would, he'd popcorn call us on Saturday night meetings before the game. And honestly, guys would be so nervous because they're like, we have no idea what he's going to ask. But there was a certain level of intentionality to like actually getting in the scouting report because you don't want to be the guy who stands up in the meeting and just has no clue what they're talking about. And I think it goes a little deeper too on like, you don't want to be wrong, but you also don't want to be wrong in front of your teammates.
Exactly. Yeah. That accountability for me is my strongest motivator in anything. Like if I want to get up and do a goal that is, something like running a marathon like I did last year, the fear of letting my teammates down or the people I love down is what's going to get me to push over the times where it's tough, where my mind is like, oh, I want to sleep in. It's that fear of letting my teammates down. And so I think great organizations know how to tap into that level of accountability in their culture, where you legitimately don't want to let your team down. You don't want to let your loved ones down. It's powerful.
Wait, so with the marathon, I guess I'm interested, how did you, form a level of accountability when you were no longer on a team? Like, what did that look like?
I ran with 3 other individuals who I trained with. And so we, just like any championship culture or team, if you have a shared set of core values and, you have a team has a high standard, you're going to really raise to the level of that standard of your team. And so, these are best friends who they enjoy pushing themselves mentally, physically, spiritually, just like I did. We would pray together. A couple of us are fathers, so we would speak about that, so it was a way for us to really have community, get together, but also physically challenge ourselves. And, we just kind of had that mindset of like, we could do anything we put our mind to, and we just pushed each other over all of the humps that come with, how do you run more than 5 miles? How do you run 8 miles? Okay, now we got 12 miles this week, and we just kept challenging one another and get to the point where we can run 26.2,
That's so I've thought about, like, after I'm done playing football, like that's something like I might want to do, is like do one of these like endurance things just to like push the human body to its limit. I couldn't run probably more than 3 miles right now. What did you like? What was your pace? Like, how was it? Was that hard on like your knees? I mean,
it was very, it was very hard. I've gained weight since the marathon. And you mentioned the name earlier before we went live, Goggins, David Goggins. The book Can't Hurt Me was one that really pushed me over the edge, where I had the same belief that I couldn't run more than 1 mile coming out of the NFL, that my back would lock up, that I just didn't have the body for it. I felt like I was allergic to jog. Like I didn't even have this slow twitch muscle in my body. And hearing Can't Hurt Me, reading that book, an audio book, got me to 4 miles. And then I told you how big mindset was in my childhood. This was also along the time where I started to figure out what I wanted to do after the game, and I was helping athletes transition out. And I took it from the standpoint of being a mindset coach and helping them get over some of their limiting beliefs and training their mind to be able to accomplish whatever they put their mind to. And so that was a lot of the motivation to even start training for a marathon was, if I want to be a mindset coach, I want to help others overcome their mental limitations. I got to overcome my own mental limitations. And so if I'm telling myself I can't run 1 mile, if I can get myself to run 26.2 using some of these techniques that I want to teach others how to do, then I'll feel confident that I'm actually teaching them things that make sense. And so I first ran the marathon to prove to myself that, these techniques, these mindset techniques are actually real and that they are impactful. So
what were some of those like mindset deficiencies that you saw in yourself that you started using some of these techniques to fix? You mentioned like I could only run 1 mile.
Yeah.
What were some of those? I know that was big for you transitioning out of the NFL after 4 or 5 years. I think you played with the Dolphins for 4 years and then kind of bounced around in that 5th year and then things kind of ended for you. What were some of those limitations you were seeing in that transition?
Yeah. So physically, when it comes to the marathon, like I said, I can't run more than 1 mile. The NFL ended. I had a bad knee injury. So it was kind of just saying like my body's not even capable of doing something like this. But overall, limitations of in terms of moving on into my next career, like I've never had experience. And so, I was just kind of procrastinating, like trying to perfect things, going to YouTube University before I even took a step anywhere. So that was a big limitation, that I was too young. I was relatively young, like 26 or so, coming out of the NFL. And I just felt like I didn't really have much to give outside of what I knew from football. Those are kind of two of the biggest limiting beliefs. And then also, I think just it was kind of this belief that I could do it all on my own. That, you know, in order to get to a stage where I was at my best in the NFL, it was me doing ladders at home by myself. So I just kind of took that same mindset, like, I can do this on my own. You know what I mean? I'm a warrior. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can make it happen. So that was limiting me to all the abundance around me in terms of support and reaching out, building community, different things like that. So those are the big ones that stopped me.
I feel like you basically just like read my mind. I feel like I think a lot of those thoughts all the time. Like, even in terms of like leadership, like, oh, I'm too young, I can't be that voice in the locker room. It's only my 4th year, you know. Really felt those voices more, you know, my 1st and 2nd year, or, man, my injuries, you know, they'll limit me to getting where I thought I could go. Mm-hmm. You know, I've had 2 ACLs myself and a dislocated ankle, you know, my 2nd year in the league. And those voices, I feel like they're in all of our heads.
Yeah.
Like, and it's cool that you're addressing that.
Yeah. It's in everyone's head. Everyone has their own voice. And a lot of times, you know, it means no harm. It's like it's like a survival mechanism. You know, it's like our inner child that is experiencing fear of uncertainty. And you know, a lot of times it's our mind trying to protect us from leaning into that uncertainty, if you will. So if I tell myself, you know, I can't be a leader in the locker room, it protects me from the uncertainty of trying to be a leader in the locker room, and the fear of what that can do if it doesn't work out. You know what I mean? If it's like, because I was the same way. I always wanted to be the one, like, breaking the team down, but there was a fear and a limiting belief that I was too young, and there was like older people around me to do so. But really, at the center of it, it was fear of being let down, or fear of like not resonating with people, and it's just that internal ego is like, you know, I don't want to not be loved. So that's kind of that's how we protect our own selves. But
is that something you still deal with, like, on a day-to-day basis, or you've like become really good and resilient at kind of shoving that voice to the side?
You know, it's something that I think never goes away. Like, we all always have that ego, that inner child that experiences it. When I hear that voice, I recognize now how to get out of it really quickly. And I recognize that it's not about like outthinking it. It's about like changing my internal state, changing my frequency, if you will, like getting into a better mindset in terms of, you know, whether it's meditating, whether it's going for a walk, whether it is saying some empowering affirmations, but it's really about changing your state. And once you're in that better state, your mind actually functions better. So it's something that I still go through, not as much. And if I do feel myself off, I have tools to get out of it really quickly and get back in a state of alignment.
That's so awesome. Yeah. So talk a little bit about your career ends in the NFL. And I mean, I'm sure you have crazy statistics. It's what your business is about. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of people who, when doing something for such a long period of time, the transition out of that phase, and it's very obvious, I think, for athletes, but people experience it in all types of professions when they're switching lanes. Mm-hmm. What was that period of like, okay, football's done for me, what's next? What was that processing like for you?
Again, when I left the game, I think a big part of it was anger, and there was trauma that I didn't really recognize how to deal with. So I was escaping it at all costs. And I was actually excited when I stopped playing because I saw this brand new world in front of me. I saw opportunity. I was tapping back into my creative side. I told you my father's an architect, so I grew up kind of in a creative household. And so I think for me, it was a process of figuring out who I was, and I was utilizing that creative expression to figure that out. And it wasn't happening fast enough, if you will. You know, I'm used to making a tackle and immediately hearing the crowd go crazy. But it took 12 years to master that craft. And, you know, I think I was expecting results quickly. And so I started feeling frustrated, not really knowing where I was. I was smoking a whole lot of cannabis. I was in Oakland. It was easy to get a part of it. And, you know, I'm not somebody who is against weed, but I was using it to escape. I couldn't be in the room when any sports was on, especially football. I couldn't even be in the room to watch it. So I was going through a lot of challenges and didn't really know that I was going through it because I was somewhere else mentally. And I self-isolated, so I didn't really speak to many people about what I was feeling. And I was more stressed than ever. I'm naturally a very peaceful person, very zen-like. But that period of time, I remember I punched a hole in the wall when I was triggered by something my wife said and didn't know how to express myself better. I was yelling more. We were getting into more arguments. And so there was this one moment where my wife, she took a picture of me with this Polaroid camera. In that picture, in that moment, I was playing video games. I had like the headphones on. I had a big old bong in front of me. I had empty plates around me. I had like clothes that were kind of disheveled around me. And I remember when I saw that Polaroid picture, that was the first time I saw myself from the outside in and recognized that I was going through some real challenges. And that was really the launching pad for me to reach out to my head of player development at the Miami Dolphins to let him know that I wasn't really in a good place and to get support. But before that, I thought I could do it all on my own. And that was the limiting blocking belief.
What was the amount of time that elapsed between your retirement and you reaching out to your player development guy?
It was about 14 months, maybe 14 or 15 months. I started really feeling the down point around like somewhere in the 8 to 12 month range. There was still an opportunity for me to keep playing. I could have went and worked out with the Cleveland Browns. So I still had an opportunity to play, but I decided that I didn't want to anymore. My heart just wasn't in it. So that time frame, 8 to 12, was when it really started to sink in. And I would say I didn't really reach out until about 14 to 15 months outside of playing.
So you reach out to your director of player development, and
yeah,
what do kind of those next few months look like for you after reaching out for help?
Yeah, he introduced me to who's one of my mentors now. His name is Jim Neeson. Jim got me in this internship with this small business who they didn't really pan out, but it was in New York. So I got a little bit of experience with that. And then he also that next weekend invited me to a Tony Robbins event. He's one of Tony Robbins' like platinum members. And experiencing that really transformed my life in a lot of ways. I mean, we walked on fire. That was really the first exploration that I went through.
What do you mean, like barefoot?
Yeah. Yeah. So if you go to a Tony Robbins event, he's going to have you walk on coals, like walk on fire. All 50,000 people.
Did you physically have blisters on your feet after, or?
Nah, no. He teaches you how to like get into this state where essentially you're kind of like in this electric state where he explains it where like the bottom of your feet literally has like energy running through it, and you're kind of like levitating a little bit, not really off of the ground, but it's the power of the mind, bro. He it's like a hypnotizing kind of situation where he had us like look in practice, seeing the end of this coal. I mean, the end of this, the coal pit. And just
how long was the coal pit?
It was probably 8 yards or something like that, 6 yards.
You're taking a few steps in it.
Yeah, it's probably like boom, 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 done. It's probably like 6 to 8 steps. And it's like you have to have absolute certainty that you're going to get to the other side. If you look down, you're going to burn yourself. If you doubt yourself, you're going to burn yourself. If you doubt yourself, that's when the power goes away.
So were there people who like doubted themselves and like would start screaming because their feet were burning?
There's people, I mean, he's had different situations. He said that no one has ever really gotten seriously injured. I saw someone in front of me one time like doubt themselves midway and jump off to the side. You know what I'm saying? But he does a really good job of preparing everybody before they go out there. And not everyone does it, I'm sure. You know, you can kind of duck. It's like the end of the first day, so you can duck off somewhere else. But yeah.
So you do this, you're at this Tony Robbins event. It's life-changing.
Yeah.
Kind of after that, what did those months look like?
Yeah, I started doing my self-discovery work. So that's when I got into like meditation. That Tony Robbins event pointed out to me some of the limiting beliefs. That's where I kind of figured out my thought process of why I wasn't moving forward. And so I really started to recognize once I got through and once I got through some of the challenges I went through, that was the moment when I wanted to reach back out and help other athletes get through their challenges and give them tools that I had learned. Remember, a lot of this Tony Robbins event was about mindset, and growing up, my father was big in mindset. So I realized mindset was like a big part of my life. And I understood from like a very subconscious level the power of having the right mindset and how that can help anyone get out of those challenges and accomplish anything they want. That's when like the marathon came right after that Tony Robbins event. And that's when I recognized that I wanted to be a coach, and I wanted to coach athletes, and I wanted to help them overcome some of their limiting beliefs just like I had. And fast forward, that's really the genesis of what became Postseason.
And so what are you guys doing specifically at Postseason? Kind of where are you guys at now?
Yeah, so we are developing an app. It'll be available mid-May. This app it's a social learning app. So it's an online educational platform where we host like online courses and live virtual workshops, all targeted specific for the challenges that athletes go through. And then we have a community element where you're not just going through this by yourself, but you're like in a league. You're getting connected with other athletes based on your challenges, based on your interests, and it's really just an opportunity for you to continue your growth, success, and fulfillment beyond the game. And so you're not just paired up with other football players or your specific sport, but you're having an opportunity to get paired up with athletes from all over, any gender. You know, I think when I was going through this process, I interviewed 55 former collegiate and professional athletes, asking them about their transition and what they wish they had, what were their fears, their frustrations. And I recognized that everyone really thought that they were going through it on their own. And so I recognized that everyone is going through a challenge, but everyone thought that they were going through it on their own. So I really wanted to formulate something that was able to help them grow from an educational standpoint, help them get coaching, but also help them really align with community again. So it's really about just like recreating that support system that exists within elite athletic organizations. So you got coaching, you got playbooks, which are our courses, and then you got community, you got that locker room again.
I think it's two elements too. It's this idea that we were talking about earlier of you've done something for so long and there's kind of this loss of identity and purpose and direction. Yeah. And then two, the community piece is interesting because a lot of athletes are in a locker room with, 10, 20, 30, in our case, 50, 60, 70, 80 other guys and gals.
Yeah.
And then to go from that to, nothing, and you're trying to process through things that most people don't want to talk about openly anyway. We struggle to be vulnerable as human beings.
Of course.
It is difficult. So that's really cool that you guys are bringing in like a community element. So if I was like interested in using the app, what would like my experience be? I'd download the app and then I'd immediately get like plugged in, or I'd have like a phone call with you guys? What would that look like?
You would download the app. We would take you through some type of orientation. So every other week we would host a group orientation for all new incoming members. You would get access to all of the online courses. A course I created called the Athlete Purpose Playbook is on there. We have a course on there called Eat to Win, which is really about shifting from building nutrition based on performance, but now it's on energy and vitality in this next phase of life. We have a course called Value Add Advisory, which is about just entrepreneurship and starting a business. So you would get access to all these different online courses that you can go at your own pace. There would be a data intake process where you're saying, okay, these are some of the challenges that I'm feeling. These are some of the interests that I have. Our algorithm will connect you with other athletes who have similar challenges. You'd be put in this league where you have like a private feed with your group. Y'all are going through the courses together. Every time you engage in something, your ranking grows in the platform. And then we have like a main feed, social feed, where every athlete on the platform is able to engage. So it's like a social experience, but it's also online education. And then you're also going to see the next 8 virtual workshops that are in the pipeline that you can schedule for. So workshops can go from a breathwork class to an entrepreneurship class to a small group discussion with your particular team to a nutrition course. A nutrition 45-minute workshop. You name it. I realized when I went through this process that not only is the problem there where athletes are going through, but there's also so many resources out there that are looking to support athletes in a meaningful way.
Is there anything out there that does what you're trying to do, that like brings all these different elements in, or is this kind of unique in its own right?
Not in the sports world, not like this, but a very comparable business model is Mind Valley. If you've heard of Mind Valley, they are one of the top educational tech platforms out there right now. But they have a very similar business model where they have online courses, which they call quests, by some of the top experts and authors, from, spirituality to fitness to relationships to like conscious parenting. And you become a member of it. And they also have like live events. They have like in-person events as well. And they also have like a community element where members can speak. So that's like the closest comparable to this. Not many platforms are combining kind of that masterclass online learning element with community. And so that's kind of a relatively new thing. But no one is doing anything like it in the sports world.
It sounds like I'll be tapping into it when I, choose to retire. It seems like a no-brainer, because we're all going to go through that, talking to athletes specifically here, but even entrepreneurs and business people, and even my mom. Right now, I think of my mom who, was a part-time nurse, but raising 5 kids, and her last one's about to leave the nest, and she's becoming an empty nester. I think about all these people going through transitions, but what's unique, to your platform is you're doing it for the athlete. It seems like something that's a no-brainer to tap into. That really doesn't take, you guys are providing all the resources in-house, and you can kind of get it at the fingertips right there on your iPhone. That's super, super cool. I want to talk to you a little bit about, as we kind of close, your like daily routines. Are there anything that you do on a day-to-day basis that kind of help you and help formulate this mindset that you've been kind of, I feel like it's been the underlying theme of the conversation? Yeah.
Meditation is huge. So I'm at the stage now where I'm balancing being a new father, being a husband, being a tech CEO with a team of 15 people. And for me, I live my life in service, and I have to be fit to serve. And so my morning routine is everything for me in terms of getting my mind right and getting my body right, my spiritual right. So I wake up at 4:44 in the morning, and I immediately meditate for 20 minutes. and I get my workout in after that. I try to get done with that by 7:15 so that I can, be available for my wife and my son as he wakes up. And then it's just getting to work and, just getting caught up on emails and then really diving into kind of the priority for that day. A lot of different meetings with my different employees and my COO. And I think what's most important to have a productive morning is my nighttime routine and making sure that I call it priming your environment for success. I didn't make that up. I read it from somewhere, but it's basically making sure that you're set up to win. It's like as NFL athletes, we're used to going into a locker room and everything is set up for you so that you can focus on being great. Imagine walking in and imagine like Little League, we had to bring your shoulder pads out of the car and it may not be fully washed yet, but we walk in and everything helps you stay in flow. So it's kind of like that where I make sure that the house is as clean as possible. Make sure that my workout clothes are somewhere very easily accessible so that when I'm waking up, I'm not like thinking so much, but I can just kind of get right into it. So I try to prime my environment for that level of success. I meditate at night as well. And yeah, that's the way I keep my mental right. Yeah.
What does the meditating look like for you? Is it just something where you're sitting in quiet? I'm interested since you're getting up so early, 4:44. Yeah. Why 4:44?
Yeah.
For the listeners, I think you told me before we went live.
Yeah. So 44 is a very powerful number. And excuse me, because I don't know all of the information on why. I can't spit it out like that, but I do know that it holds a lot of power to it. It's known as an angel number. It pops up a lot in my life. For that reason, I see 444 a lot. And so that's basically, I want to wake up by 5, but 444 is what I choose because of the power of those numbers. And then ultimately my meditation process, it changes. There's a meditation that I love. It's called the Twin Hearts meditation. It's a meditation where the main theme of it is you're asking for blessings from the divine, from God, so that you can send it to others. So the most of the meditation, your hands are kind of out in front of you and you're imagining an earth in front of you and you're imagining like golden light coming from the top of your head and coming out through your hands and blessing others with. So it's just like asking for blessings, sending blessings to others. And in the process of that, it sort of clears out. It's incredible how it happens. And for a lot of individuals, they may not really take this for word because it's kind of energy work and it's a little scary for a lot of people. But ultimately, that energy flows through you and it kind of clears out your aura in a lot of ways. And what you experience is a level of stillness that's very powerful. So that's one of my favorite meditations. It's something that I've listened to so much. You can find it on YouTube. There's this guy, Master Co, who leads it. But I know how to do it without having it get led. There's the Silva method where it's kind of like a hypnosis kind of meditation. There's over 1,000 different types of meditation, so it's to each his own, but those are two of my favorite ones.
It wasn't something that you experienced that energy like immediately, like your first session, or was it?
No, it takes time. It takes time. I told you I kind of started meditating consistently after that Tony Robbins event. It took me months before I learned how to like really quiet my mind. And it took me a couple of years before I found those two specific meditations that resonated with me the most. But it's practice. I teach meditation now to athletes as a means to like train your awareness. So like a lot of people think meditating is like just like finding peace and being still, but it's really about training yourself to be aware of your thoughts, of your emotions, of your actions. A lot of us live life on autopilot. We get stressed out, we get triggered, and we're just kind of moving through these patterns that we've been going through our whole life. meditation allows us to be the observer of these thoughts. And so instead of your thoughts just taking you, you're able to observe it and say, okay, this is how I'm feeling today. This is how I'm feeling today. And what happens is the more you remain as the observer of those thoughts, you start to detach from it, and the power of those thoughts decreases a bit because you're sort of detached from it a bit. It's a little bit, it's a practice though, so it takes training. You develop these new patterns in your mind and it becomes easier over time. So no, it didn't happen overnight for sure.
Do you battle like sleepiness in the morning when you do it?
Not as much. Meditation sort of energizes me now, and the meditation that I do at night allows me to sleep pretty good without my mind like racing. It used to be a fact where my mind would be racing at night and I would try to meditate in the morning and I'd be sleepy, but I think it's because my body didn't relax quick enough. So there's a couple things, like the more you meditate, the more your body just gets used to sort of being upright and sort of maintaining consciousness, like maintaining that level of awareness while you're meditating. But initially, it's like your body is still trying to adjust to it. And so again, that's where the sleepiness comes in. So I don't experience it as much anymore, but I used to.
Because when I'll get up in the morning to pray or read, if I haven't gotten my full 8 hours of sleep, I'm just sitting there and I'm battling. Like if I go to close my eyes and just try to like quiet my mind, like I can find myself going in, like I'll have thoughts pass through and they'll be active thoughts, but then it'll just kind of like go dead. But I'm not even aware of like my surroundings. I'm like sleeping.
Yeah, you're nodding off.
I'm nodding off.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know if I need like a little more time between when I wake up and when I do the meditation, or maybe some caffeine or something. But
are you in there's a good quote that I read not too long ago about meditation. It's like you kind of want to be somewhat in an uncomfortable position. You want to be comfortable, but just enough discomfort where you're not like, you don't want to be like laying on your back necessarily. You will pass out. And if you're too comfortable, it'll be easy to pass out. So that's why people get in these cross-legged positions, or they try to sit upright. So if you're just a little bit more uncomfortable, I think it'll be easier for you.
Yeah, because I just sit down in my nice comfy chair down there, lean back, arms in the air.
Yeah, that'll knock you out.
That's
for sure.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on, bro. This was helpful. I feel like I learned a lot, and I'm excited for what you guys are doing with postseason, and I know it's going to bless a lot of people. And so just want to encourage you with that.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Nah, I acknowledge you for what you're doing and having these conversations, man. And as someone who is currently still playing, best of luck to you. Sending you love, blessings, all those great things, man. And I'm excited for the abundance of impact that you're going to have way beyond your time playing. Yeah, sure.